What's up everyone, Tommy with Studio Sense here. Thanks so much for stopping by. I am super stoked today because I finally get my hands on Paco Rabanne's Invictus Victory Elixir. Together today we're going to learn a little bit more about this new release and to see if it's just one of those in a myriad of elixirs that seem to be being released by houses now, or if it's something that you might want to get your hands on. So when we come back, we're going to dig into it. I got that and more coming up, so stay tuned. Welcome back everyone. A lot of people might say straight up that Invictus is a fragrance that has seen the best of what it has to offer, and it's old and we need more newer stuff. And I might tend to agree a little bit. I think Invictus has been played out as in the original Invictus, but I still feel like there's a lot of creativity still yet that Paco Rabanne can offer us. And I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that Invictus Victory Elixir is gonna just add to what is already a great fragrance. And when I say already a great fragrance, the original Victory. This was their first foray into definitely a heavier, spicier, cold weather fragrance, which is what this is. And it's an amazing scent. I love spicy anyway. And if you're a fan of fragrances similar to Bulgari Man in Black, you know, Spice Bomb, Gentleman Only by Givenchy, Gentleman Only Absolute rather, along the same similar lines. Right after Victory, we had Platinum, which is a summertime fragrance that's more absinthe oriented. It just doesn't last very long, but I actually really like the scent profile. And now we have Invictus Victory Elixir. Now, Paco Rabanne is no stranger to elixirs. Not that long ago released the 1 million elixir, which is great, and I'm hoping that they're going to kind of sort of go that same direction with this. Paco Rabanne knocked it out of the park with Victory. It's one of the best directions that Invictus has gone since Invictus Aqua, in my opinion, and so I'm really hoping that they build on that instead of destroying that with Invictus Victory Elixir. So like we do in typical fashion, let's take a quick look at the presentation. The box has a matte black finish with shiny gold and silver highlights. The gold and silver logo is sitting on top of a shiny blue square. It says Invictus below that in gold, Victory Elixir. Paco Rabanne Parfum Intense is in gold, and below that 100 ml or 3.4 fluid ounces. The sides of the box have no information. On the back of the box there is a QR code near the top that says scan to discover the universe. Below that it says made in France, vegan formula, very long lasting, and below those statements is an address. The bottom of the box contains the ingredients, distribution information, various stickers, another QR code, and a UPC. In the top of the box, stamped in the center, is the Paco Rabanne logo. The bottle, of course, is the expected Invictus Victory cup. The difference in this and the previous Invictus Victory is that the top of the bottle, the plastic portion, is no longer matte, it is a shiny black, which looks very classy. The glass of the previous Victory is dark brown. Victory Elixir's glass is a dark blue. While you can't actually see a gradient, it does start out very dark at the top of the V and gets a bit lighter as you head towards the bottom of the Victory cup. If you hold the bottle up to light, you can actually see the blue a lot better and often see the atomizer stem below the bottom of the V. On the bottom of the bottle, etched into glass, is your fragrance information, and in this case the batch code of 23001. I think in terms of presentation and looks, this is one of the classiest, best looking color and theme Invictus bottles ever. Just like I'm a fan of those darker, richer, spicier notes in men's fragrance, I am a fan of those darker thematic color elements. So when you put together two really cool colors like dark blue and black, I really like the results. So the top of the Victory cup is now shiny black, whereas in the original Victory it is a matte looking black. Just kind of a classy difference there. And the bottle style, although I hesitate to say that this is a gradient, but you can kind of sort of tell that it is, because where it meets the top it's very, very dark. You can't see through it, but the closer you get towards the bottom, the more that you can see. You can actually see the inside, the atomizer stem inside the the bottle there. So the presentation is aces. The bottle looks fantastic. Now we're ready to talk about the notes. Let's see what kind of fragrance notes are in Invictus Victory Elixir. Invictus Victory Elixir features top notes of lavender, green cardamom, and black pepper, with heart notes of incense and patchouli, resting on a base of vanilla bean and tonka bean. So there you have it. Those are the notes that make up Invictus Victory Elixir. Now, one difference that I found interesting, you know, the industry often makes up words for things to kind of spice it up, and I get that. That's kind of cool, you know, to create a blurb, you know, to be a blurb writer and try to infuse as much energy and excitement into your blurb description of a fragrance as you can. One thing that they say about this, though, that may not be something that's made up, and I really like the idea of it in this, when they're talking about the tonka bean, they actually refer to it as a delicious nectar of tonka bean liqueur. I'm a huge fan of liqueurs. Like the idea of the fragrance notes in the fragrance, they're just so dark, rich, and heavy, and they often contain the very best essence of whatever the flavor is. In fact, they refer to the vanilla in this as an overdose of delectable vanilla, and that's another great way of putting that. So if in fact there is a tonka bean liqueur, an overdose of vanilla, I'm probably gonna love this fragrance. Let's check it out. So I'm gonna spray the litmus here. Now, if you've never used or had an Invictus fragrance, the button for the atomizer is in the very center of the top of the Victory cup. So it feels a little bit awkward, but it actually sprays really well. The atomizer works great, as you can tell. It throws a bunch of juice out there. I'm probably spraying too much. Man, in the air, this smells so good. Could probably stop this first impressions here and just tell you I really like this. Really like this. One thing I liked about 1 Million Elixir is that Apple Divana combination hits you in the face as soon as you spray it on. Well, I'll say Apple Divana vanilla, incense, tonka bean, and because that's part of the heart and the base. Incense, tonka bean, and vanilla in here is what makes this so good. It's a very heavy fragrance, as an elixir should be, right? It's the expectation that we have of elixir, and that is correct. There's a little bit of a brightness in here, just like the apple kind of elevates, you know, the weighted notes in 1 Million Elixir. So you've got two notes in there that are heavily contributing to the sweetness, the sweet vibe of this fragrance. That's tonka bean and vanilla. The more excited I am about a fragrance, the more that I want to talk about it. And let me just tell you, this might just be my favorite release this year so far. And there have been a ton of new releases, and there are still yet several that I haven't talked about yet. If you're like me at all and you're a fan of the heavier, the sweeter, lightly sweet anyway, not syrupy sweet, fragrances that have this masculine component about them, then you will like Victory Elixir. It's not as sweet as 1 Million Elixir. I think maybe they learned from that. I'm not saying that I think 1 Million Elixir is too sweet, but it's kind of a syrupy sweet fragrance. They have definitely dialed back on the sweetness. There is a proper amount of sweetness. First of all, you're getting the introduction into the heavier notes with this wonderfully camphorous lavender. And when you combine that with another note, it's got a little bit of a louder personality. Black pepper is very aromatic, a little bit of creamy nuttiness from cardamom. Then you move into the heart, which has that incense. And then in the base, where we find that powerful duo of vanilla bean and tonka bean combined, working extremely well together. Talk about creamy, nutty, buttery, dark, rich, you know, and you've got that incense, which adds a resin factor to it. That just bumps up how powerfully masculine Invictus Victory Elixir is. It's lightly sweet, it's spicy, it's masculine, and it's perfect for cooler weather. But I will say this, if I was at the mall and someone walked past me and I smelled this smell on them, if I was just an average Joe out there who didn't have a lot of fragrances already, I would want to know what that smell is. It's a captivatingly masculine smell for all the right reasons, and I really think that they've again knocked it out of the park, and happily they built on the foundations of an already great fragrance profile, and that is Victory. That overdose of vanilla and that tonka bean liqueur combination is what's making this so good, along with, of course, the incense resins in the heart of it. So the open, very fresh, very spicy, very sweet, but in the heart, that sweetness begins to subside a little bit, and it finds a nice resting place in the dry down. I highly recommend not to judge this fragrance by that sweet open, because again, it starts dissipating. When it goes from the heart to the base to that final dry down is a very comfortable resting place for the amount of sweetness, the level of sweetness in this fragrance. And then what you have is just this very volumetric, incredible scent bubble. Similar to the original Victory, it's easy for me to recommend Victory Elixir for cooler weather, but I do think it's much more versatile than the original Victory, simply because it is going to be perfect for those date nights. There is a bit of a mysterious, seductive quality, primarily from the combination of tonka, vanilla, and incense in the base, the heart and the base of the fragrance. And that particular kind of seductive, sultry component is definitely what you want with you when you're on a date night. So it's going to be a fantastic date night fragrance, and you can definitely add it to your collection of date night fragrances as one of the best, I think, because it definitely has that sultry, sexy, come hither masculinity about it. Like, it's just going to be like the Pied Piper to her olfactive sense. Her, his, they, whomever. It's gonna work wonders for your relationship and date night. So I definitely think it has that going for it, which Victory didn't necessarily have that going for. I mean, I'm sure I recommended this for date nights as something of a bit of a spicy fougere. Definitely didn't have the creamy sweetness and butteriness that Victory Elixir does. Like all Invictus flankers, you can pick up Invictus Victory Elixir in 3 different sizes. You can get a 50 ml size for $100. You can get a 100 ml size for $126, and I think the 200 ml is $164. The particular prices that I'm quoting are Macy's, simply because I use that as kind of my golden mean of prices. So that's going to be the average price that you'll find at most actual retail outlets. The fragrance hasn't made its way, even though it's a little bit older. It's several months old by now, a few months old. It's not made its way to discounters yet. It will be reduced in price to discounters, but honestly, guys, I'm here to tell you, I think that's a pretty decent price. You know, when you've got other flankers out there that are coming in at $130, $140, $125, $126 for a 100 ml bottle of a very heavy, dense fragrance with obviously a great incorporation of heavier fragrance oils that smells this great. It's not bad. One of the few times I'm recommending to pay retail price. Normally I tell you guys to hold on to your money and wait till it hits discounters. You can definitely do that for this. After all, it's a Paco Rabanne fragrance. It's one of those mass appealing crowd pleasers that's definitely going to be reduced in price over time, but I feel like it's one of the few that I have no trouble paying the money for to smell this good. Presentation is aces, projection is aces, the overall aroma and scent profile is aces. For date night, it's got that seductive masculine quality that we want in our colognes and fragrances. It's got that appeal to it. That's all I'm going to say about that. This is my first impression of the fragrance, so I haven't worn it overnight, you know, for several days, but I am going to do that. Today's my first day in actually wearing it. I'm going to wear it all day. I'm going to make notes for the next 2 or 3 days. Then I'll give you guys a full rundown of how I put it through its paces and what kind of data that I've come back with after that. I can tell right away with my pretty broad experience with fragrances that this is going to be a banger, you know, for most people. I'm getting different kind of nuances of that wonderfully woody patchouli. You know, it's got that really nice woody base to it, though it's coming in through the heart along with the incense. So you've got that mixed in with that sweet streaming duality of the tonka and vanilla bean. Man, those are so good. So good. We need more fragrances like this. So I'm excited about Invictus Victory Elixir, and I hope you guys can be excited about it too. And if anything about my description so far has piqued your curiosity, definitely get a sample of it. If you've already grabbed it and started wearing it, let me know what your thoughts are, what you think about it in the comments below. Guys, thanks so much for stopping by and checking out today's first impressions of Paco Rabanne's Invictus Victory Elixir. As always, thank you so much for your continued support on my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you tomorrow. So right after this, we're going to dig into Invictus. So right after this, we're going to dig into Invictus. Paco Rabanne's Invictory. Why is that so hard to say? I finally get my hands on, Invictory. What are the fragrance notes that make up Invictory? There we go again. Invictory. That's really what they should call it. Kind of minimize all the word usage there. Hey, how do you feel about Invictory Elixir? Wow, I messed it up more than I thought that I could. Invictory Elixir. Sounds like a new car Kia is releasing.